Hola, ladies and germs. Welcome to the Omni Review with your host. Got some stuff to review and shit. I'm gonna review a film that I saw a while back. I believe it was October when I saw it. Yes, I know I should have reviewed it already. I'm a failure. The film I'm talking about is Moonlight, written and directed by Barry Jenkins. I didn't know a whole lot about Barry Jenkins or this film before going in to see it. All I know is that it had glowing reviews from a lot of the critics that I follow regularly, so I came into this film expecting quite a bit. Moonlight follows the story of a young black man from childhood to adulthood and his struggle to find his place in the world, which is made even more difficult by the fact that he has to grow up in a very bad Miami neighborhood.
I should have mentioned this earlier, but he is also gay, so the fact that he's growing up in a rough neighborhood that doesn't necessarily support that type of lifestyle makes it even that much harder.
His name is Sharon, and this film is broken up into 3 chapters based on the different stages of his life, being a child, being a teenager, and a young adult, which I guess you kind of got from looking at the poster of this film. The script of Moonlight is actually based on a play written by playwright Terrell Alvin McCraney, and it is called In Moonlight, Black Boys Look Blue. It's important for me to bring this up because both the director and the playwright grew up in Liberty City, Miami in the 1980s, which is the same exact setting of this film. That makes sense because this film feels very intimate and personal, like you're following someone's life story very closely. And I think it's because of this that Moonlight doesn't come off as a very typical coming-of-age story. One of the biggest things that stood out to me about this film is that it does a great job of separating itself from stories with very similar subject matter, and it does this in a variety of different ways. One example could be the soundtrack, which is comprised of this very pretty and beautiful orchestral music, instead of using the stereotypical shitty R&B and rap music that we hear in a lot of films with an urban setting. Even though certain aspects of this film may feel stereotypical at times, it still does a very good job of keeping it fresh for the most part. One example of this could be the mother of Sharon in this film, who is an abusive drug addict played by Naomi Harris. Naomi Harris was even reluctant to play this role because she didn't want to perpetuate the stereotypical portrayal of a black woman in film. She eventually was persuaded to play this role by Barry Jenkins, and I'm glad she did because even though this character is kind of the stereotypical drug addict mother, it's not meant to be taken as a broad interpretation. It's just merely meant to represent this one man's mother who plays a huge role in his development as a person. Also, her performance is excellent. Holy shit, it's really good. She does a great job of giving this role that sense of realism that's needed to make this role look genuine. I love that even though she is a character who obviously has some severe issues, there are different scenes in this film that shows that she's not just simply some negative throwaway character. This can be seen from the conflict that she has with her drug dealer, Juan, who acts as a mentor or a father figure to her son, Sharon. She still has enough compassion for her son, so much that she's still not afraid to call Juan out as a bad influence, even though she really doesn't have any room to talk. Speaking of which, Mahershala Ali, who plays the role of Juan in this film, gives a phenomenal performance. As I mentioned earlier, he's a drug dealer who befriends Sharon. He takes it upon himself to act as a sort of guardian to Sharon, who's very meek and an easy target for other kids to bully because of his size. Some of the best and most powerful scenes in this film are when these two characters are on screen, and the dynamic between them is so profound and so touching. Let's also not forget to mention the child actor who plays Sharon in this film. It was so refreshing to see a good child actor give a great performance for once, because most child actors kind of suck. They like really suck. On a technical level, I would say this film is very good considering it was made on just a measly budget of $5 million. One thing that did bother me is I didn't like how shaky some of the shots were during some of the car scenes at the beginning of this movie. Every time there's a bump, it's like, holy shit. It was like rocking chair cinematography featuring Grandmom. Just hold the camera still, Grandmom. There was also a practical effect that was used in this film that kind of looked fake. I don't want to be too specific about how it was used because I don't want to spoil anything, but it's used as like in this stunt scene, and when it's used, it doesn't look particularly real or convincing. But even with those two issues, that still doesn't really take away from all the accomplishments this film has technically. After doing some research, I actually found out that this film imitates 3 different film stock looks, one for each chapter of the film. The first being Fuji film stock, which intensifies skin tones. The second being Agfa film stock, which adds a cyan tint to it. And then the third being Kodak, which is just one of the more widely used film stocks today, which has a very, I guess, modern or present day look. This is really clever because it sets each chapter apart aesthetically, and it also shows a very subtle yet natural progression of time as the main character grows up. The only other critique I have with this film is that it kind of runs out of steam towards the end. The last 20 minutes of the film just kind of dragged for me, and while the ending isn't bad or unsatisfying, it just didn't seem like it was as powerful as it should have been. And it still was definitely appropriate for that story, it's just that I kind of got the impression that this was the part of the script that the writers had a really hard time completing. With that said, I still think this film is an incredibly refreshing watch, even if it is a bit of an old hat. It's very original and very emotional because of how personal it feels, and it's got the best ensemble out of every film I've seen this year, and because of that, I'm going to give Moonlight a 4 out of 5. Thanks for watching this review, guys. If there's anything you'd like me to review, please write it in the comments section below, as long as it's not a shitty movie. Thanks again, guys. This is not Josh, this is your boy Jay, telling you to have a great day. Signing off until next time.